Youngpreneurs Podcast, episode number 155, with your host, Victor Ahipenny. What's up, world? Another day, another podcast, and today I have a guest that I'm actually doing round 2 of an interview with, but round 1 never got released because we're having some massive audio issues and it didn't record any of my questions. So I've got my guest Nathan Rose back on the show, and when I first spoke to him, he was releasing his first book about crowdfunding, equity crowdfunding, and it was a massive success, so we're going to talk about that. But he's also caught the author or writer's bug, and he's going to talk to us not only about equity crowdfunding, but also some powerful things that can be done in the book writing space, how you can create your own books and create an actual really nice passive income off the back of it. And we'll talk about Nathan's upcoming book and how he found that niche and what it's all about. And that book will actually be, at the time of you listening to this, actually released. You can find that over on Amazon, and go there and support Nathan if the topic of the book, which you'll find out in the show, catches your interest. But jump over to iTunes, leave a rating and review if you enjoyed the show, and then make sure to subscribe however you listen to your podcasts, and jump over to passiveincomeyoung.com if you enjoyed what you heard in the show, and there's some links that you wanted to find out more about. We've got all the show notes, the links, as well as a 4-part video series on how you can start your first business for $0 down, and you can get a massive kickstart to get into the online world and start doing more of what you love, and of course living life on your own terms. You're listening to the Youngpreneurs Podcast, the number 1 resource online for under 35-year-olds, where we chat twice a week to the most inspiring entrepreneurs in the world. We have it all. If you're looking for inspiration, guidance, or actionable tips to help you transition from that job into a business, or if you're ready to take that business to a whole new level, then this is the place to be. Get ready to live life on your own terms. Youngpreneurs, welcome to another episode of the Youngpreneurs Podcast. I'm running the second interview with Nathan Rose, but the first one never got to your ears because we had some massive technical difficulties. But since then, he's become a best-selling author of equity crowdfunding, and I know it's something that isn't necessarily known by a lot of you out there. What is equity crowdfunding? What kind of paths does it go out? But I also know a lot of you are really interested in getting your own book out there, building some authority and branding from it, and then the ways that you can get it into people's hands. So I've got Nathan back. He's been kind enough to jump back on and share with us some of his tips and give us a bit of an insight into equity crowdfunding. So welcome to the show.
Hey, it's great to be here, Victor. Thanks for having me on again.
It's absolutely my pleasure. First off, let's dive into it. Let's pull it apart. Where are you in the world? Because the first time we chatted, you were in one place. Now you're in another. And give our listeners a bit of a background about prior to equity crowdfunding, what life kind of looked like for you.
Yeah, cool. So right now I'm calling you from Georgia, and that's Georgia, the country, not the American state. To give you an idea about where Georgia is, it's like south of Russia, north of Turkey, kind of close to all of the, when people look at it, you probably think, oh, gee, it's kind of close to Iran and Syria and these places. But it's a very nice place, very safe place, and it's summer here, which is a bonus. Before doing the digital nomad thing, I was an investment banker in New Zealand. I did that for 3 years after finishing university down at Otago. And I've been doing a bunch of projects over the last few years, equity crowdfunding being the most prominent of those. But as you get into this space, you start to see other opportunities emerge. So I'm here to chat about crowdfunding and other stuff that's kind of emerged on the way as I've published the book on it last year.
How did, because it seems like there, for once, one of my guests has potentially got a link between the university education or their postgraduate job and crowdfunding. Am I just drawing too long strings to connect them, or was there a flow on from investment banking to equity crowdfunding? I guess before we delve into exactly what equity crowdfunding is.
Yeah, no, there's definitely a link to draw there. When I was an investment banker, what we would do is we would help young companies raise money through initial public offerings, which for those who don't know just means you're selling shares to the public in a company for the first time. And equity crowdfunding is pretty much exactly the same thing, except it's for companies at an even earlier stage. So real startups that are looking to raise like maybe even less than $1 million to get their team and idea off the ground, but aren't yet ready to engage a big, expensive investment bank with a big downtown office and all the costs that go with that. So I guess my entrepreneurial journey started with some skills that I'd already built up in the corporate world, and it was really just selling my time to start off with. And there's advantages and disadvantages to that, but one of the advantages is it's very easy to get started quickly. And when you're new to this stuff, and a lot of the buzzwords and stuff don't make a lot of sense. Just doing something that you already know how to do is a pretty good shortcut to getting some location independence.
Yep. And what transitioned the move from the corporate world to the consulting world to the location independent side of things? Was it the typical you're just sick of it, or you saw something bigger, or you'd always had those entrepreneurial aspirations?
I love to say that it was some kind of great inspirational moment, or the quest for something bigger, but it was really just a case of I couldn't take it anymore in the job that I was in. And I think actually looking at the guys that were a few years ahead of me in their careers and seeing that actually even if I stuck around for 5 years or 10 years, I didn't like what I saw ahead of me. Like that, the hallway test, you see these guys that are like in their mid-30s, they're starting to have families and they're never at home to see their kids. So they were guys like just in investment banking and in the team that I was in. It meant that their wives and partners had to do all the child rearing. And I thought, well, like one day when I'm in that position, I don't want to be there. So it's best to start now with my own thing that gives me a bit more independence.
Yeah, that's cool. And it's I think that resonates with myself and a lot of other people as being present in the moment rather than having the shutters on and waking up at 65 and going, shit, I missed out on a lot of stuff along the way that was it really worth it to hit target for the month of 20 years ago? Was it really worth missing little Jimmy's soccer or whatever it may be? And with that transition out, was it just a swift, straight transition?
No, I went backpacking around Southeast Asia for 6 months first. It's kind of a blowout, but
that's the best way to conserve your capital before going out of the 9 to 5. 6 months of travel.
Yeah, but also just to get the hunger back, I think.
Yeah.
Like when you're working the big hours, all you want is to go on holiday, and then you give yourself that, and you realize that actually after a while you don't just want to sit on a beach all day. You have these things and projects that you want to pursue, but it takes sometimes jumping out of the everyday day-to-day that gives you that mental energy and time to explore those.
It's interesting you say that, like, when you're working the long hours, and I'd love to hear your thoughts on it now, having obviously traveled quite a lot for a while now. I was talking to one of my good friends, and he said kind of once he got out of the 9 to 5, he realized that he only really looked forward to holidays because it got him away from work, whereas now he likes going to, say, another country to deliberately go snowboarding, whereas previously, if it was anywhere, he'd be happy to go just because he was unsatisfied in his job. Do you still get the same thrill out of travel, or has it changed your perspective because you can take the time?
I think in common with a lot of digital nomads is that eventually they go through this cycle where they yearn for a bit more stability over time, which is why I've gone and planted myself down in Georgia for the foreseeable future. that after a while, actually, that if you're working on something that you're passionate about, you want to be able to work on that without having to worry all the time about figuring out the public transport system or where the supermarket is or just how the city that you're in works. And like travel, I find it's great, of course, but I try to put it into its box, and enjoy the weekends away or the weeks away. But like when I'm really head down, I like to be in a more familiar environment.
Yeah, that consistency. So jumping back to the equity crowdfunding, you were saying kind of the smaller businesses who don't want to do an IPO or anything like that. If we were to dive into that a bit more, and someone out there is listening and they go, all right, crowdfunding, what does that look like for them? Like who is the person out there that's listening that says equity crowdfunding might actually be a good fit for me?
Yeah. So it'll be someone with a team rather than the freelancers or solopreneurs out there.
Yep.
So you'll have a business which has already got some kind of traction behind it, but you need some money to expand. And traditionally, there are a few different ways to do that. You can hit up your family and friends, but they often don't have a lot of money just lying around for your latest crazy idea.
Yeah.
You can go talk to venture capital or angel investors, but one of the tricky parts about them is it takes a lot of negotiation, and then you'll have this guy hanging around with all this influence over your business, which maybe you didn't want in the first place. But equity crowdfunding, it kind of bridges those two, and it allows you to go out to the public to raise, say, between $100,000 up to a few million, depending on where you are in the world.
Yeah.
And it'll be to grow your business, right, rather than to sell your business. So it should be used for growing and expanding.
With that, what are the, obviously you mentioned some of the pros. You can, you don't have to go down the angel investor pathway. You potentially don't have to put your parents' money at risk. But what are some of the cons that people would need to think about if they were thinking about going down this pathway? Both if they were thinking about it, doing it themselves, and then obviously just the cons in general of equity crowdfunding.
Yeah, one of the big cons is that it's a lot of work. It's a full outreach campaign, much like launching any kind of product or new venture. You can't just put it out there and expect people to come. So raising money through equity crowdfunding happens through a lot of outreach. So you'll be putting together a video, a business plan. You'll be going out there and talking to investors. There's a full campaign to run. So if you have other stuff going on in your business, which is like quite intensive, it's like if you're going through a product launch, I wouldn't advise people to go through a crowdfunding campaign at the same time.
Yeah.
You want to give yourself at least a bit of clear air and a bit of time to pull it off properly. Yeah. And like just in general, when it comes to raising money, like it's not the only way to fund a business. You can obviously fund a business through just selling things to customers, which I'll always say to people is best. Like if you can just grow through retained earnings, then that's perfect.
Yeah.
But some of these technology startups, they need a bit more of a boost when they're just getting started.
Yeah. And then what are the implications for the business? You obviously given up some equity for it.
Yeah.
Is there any hard and fast rules on what people will look for? Is it just finding the right fit to the right person?
Well, from an investor's point of view, they're going to be looking at companies which actually have a prospect of making more money than the investor put in.
Yeah.
So that's kind of has to be a given.
Yeah.
From the company's point of view, having these new investors around does mean that you have a responsibility to them. So when you're just by yourself or with a partner, you can run the business however you want it to be run. And that could include taking 12 weeks off a year if you like.
Yeah.
But when you've got these investors around, you can't really do that. Like it's more of a case that you've taken their money and now you've got a responsibility to them to grow the pie to be as big as possible. So you should just make sure that your own intentions are aligned with that growth, and you've got growth at the core of everything you're doing.
Yeah, no, that's cool. And so before we jump into your book, because I really want to talk about that, because it's awesome. You're a number one bestseller, and you've obviously that doesn't happen by accident. But if people out there are thinking about crowdfunding, apart from getting your book, which I'd say would be a great start to find out more and to know it in a bit more depth. But if they want to get in touch with you, what should they do in that aspect?
Yeah, so you can go to my website, which is assembleadvisory.com, and there's links there to working with me one-on-one, the book, of course, online training. So whatever level is right for you, you can check it out there.
Cool. We'll link that at passiveincomeyoung.com. But I want to dive into the book because, it's pretty cool to have that nice little gold emblem of being a number one bestseller. But as I said, it doesn't happen by accident. And I know that you said to me prior to recording, you're putting out a second book. What are some of your key learnings from your first book, and what are some of the things that you're going to from that do differently into your second book?
So one of the big things to get right is the actual Amazon listing itself. So getting the cover of the book right, getting the title right, doing the keyword research on the subtitle. These are all big areas which take a lot of research to get into, and I'm happy to dive into those.
Yeah, dive away, man. I know I think even before we do that, I just want to put out there, having a book gives you an automatic perceived authority in whatever market you're in, compared to a person with exactly the same amount of knowledge and who doesn't have a book. So if people are out there going, I don't know if this is really for me, I'm not really, I don't know if I've got enough knowledge. You do. And if you don't have enough time, you should make it, because a lot of opportunities, whether it be speaking, training, consulting, whatever, will come about from just having a book. But I'll let you, if you agree or disagree, you can run on that, but I'll let you jump into the deep dive into the analytical side of things.
Yeah, so let me share with your listeners a couple of tools that I use, because these are useful things. One is merchant words, and merchant words is usually mentioned by the fulfillment by Amazon crowd, that as a way of finding new keywords to target for their products. But actually, it's very useful for books too. So if you're writing a book and you're thinking about what to call it, you have to try to match the title or subtitle as much as possible with what people are already searching for, unless you're already an incredibly well-known author, in which case, like if you're Seth Godin, you can call your book Purple Cow. Yeah. And even though no one's looking for Purple Cow beforehand, they are searching for your name. Yeah. So all that goes out the window. But if you're less known, before launching, I looked up equity crowdfunding. I looked up other keywords related to that, like startups and venture capital and funding. And from that, I put together a list of high traffic keywords, because when you're in merchant words, you can actually see the number of monthly searches. And that's very helpful to help you rank. The cover came about as a result of outreach to my email list. So it was actually even a way of building the email list in the first place, like with people who I thought could be interested in this book. I kind of was able to send cold email on the pretext of, hey, I'm about to be launching this book. Here are the covers that I'm thinking of. And by the way, if you'd like to download the draft, then here's the box to fill in your email. So
nice.
And the content of the book is obviously a big job too. I think though that people, like, if there's a way that people make the mistake, it's they will spend not enough time on the marketing and too much time on the content.
Yeah.
But having said that, I think that if you are going to put out a book, I think that it should be of some length and substance, even though Amazon will let you put out a 5-page book if you want to. People aren't people are going to see through that, like especially if you're trying to use it for authority.
Yeah,
it has to be a certain size and weightiness in people's hands,
and also it has to offer some value when they do read it, like
right.
as in, but on the flip side, yeah, like you're saying, I mean, there's a case study on a person who used it to basically mock some of the Amazon
Yeah,
hacks that people were doing, and his book was called something like My Foot, and he
yeah.
took a photo of his
I've
foot.
seen that too.
Yeah,
I've seen that too.
and it's good and bad in the sense of, what he did highlighted a lot of the stuff throughout it. But what you're talking about is how do you create a book, not only a book, but one that keeps getting found. So you're not just launching it to your friends and family and then it dies off and you're getting nothing else out of it, and you've just got the authority side of things, for yourself. So I'll let you carry on, because I mean, I agree about the marketing. It's kind of, I think with the book, it's sell them what they want and give them what they need on the inside of the cover. So if you're not getting people to actually look at it, or they're not seeing it in searches, then it's kind of
Right.
pointless having it on Amazon or even in a bookstore. But I'll let you carry on with your tips because they're awesome.
Yeah, like I think because there are guys out there who are doing these marketing hacks, you kind of have to play this game too.
Yeah.
So for sure, like I got my mates to give me some initial reviews. I hope the big guys at Amazon aren't going to pull my book off the shelves because I just said that, but I don't think so. They know what's going on.
Yeah.
I think assuming that you've written a good book, you've got to do the marketing stuff as well, and you've got to do it well. Another thing that I think a lot of people don't do is they're only putting their book out in one format. So if you this really surprised me actually, like putting it out in Kindle, that's great, but there's been even more revenue come through the paperback version, and there's been even more than that come through the audiobook version. So you can take that content and repurpose it in 3 different formats and get paid for each. People are even, I haven't done this myself, but people are also going out there and translating their books into different languages. Like if you can, I think it makes sense to launch in English first up, but if you're getting fantastic success, then look at maybe a German version or a Spanish version.
I struggle with English enough as it is.
You and me both. But there are people on Upwork who will translate it for you. So
exactly, if you can't do it, there's someone else. There's someone else who can online. What I was going to say with the audiobook and the hard copy, did you go through Russell Brunson's recent the ClickFunnels book, his whole funnel?
I must admit I didn't.
It was really awesome. So he basically had it wasn't on Amazon or anything. It was his own product launch. He's got a big list. He owns, for people out there who don't know, he's the founder of ClickFunnels, and does really, really well. And he launched to his list, and he had affiliate partners selling off his books for different. I think the winner got Ferrari or something, or just something ridiculous. But it was buy his hard-covered book. Then the next page was, it's going to take 7 to 10 days to get out to you. Why don't you get the Kindle now for X amount? Like, so it's an upsell. And then it was, we're also going to release the audio so you can smash through the audio. That was the next 1-page upsell. So people had already made that micro commitment of paying. He did a free plus shipping, so it broke even on the front end. So it was, free book, just pay $9.95 shipping, which for everyone out there, that basically covers for the majority of in-country deliveries. If you're in the States, it'll cover the book printing and the shipping. And then he made more on the Kindle resale, the audiobook resale, and then he had his previous book sell, and then like a whole bundled package with training. So there was about $700 worth of upsells, and I think he did a 7 or 8 figure book launch off the back of it. Because I don't think anyone just spent the $10 who went through. There would have been a few, but in the end, his affiliate partners were paying people $20 to buy the book. That's how ridiculous, because they knew that their kickbacks on the back end of it all were way more than $20. So it got out of control. But for those out there who do have that audio book and the Kindle book and the hardcover book, and they're looking to even do their own funnel off the back end, then it's always another option there as well.
I think, though, that people can look at launches like that and get intimidated, right? Yeah. So if you're basing your own success off a guy like Russell Brunson or Tim Ferriss, then don't, right? There's a lot to be learnt actually from just getting a book out there, and actually, I think if you feel like you've got one book in you that you really want to write, then it can be useful to write a couple of books before that, just to see how the whole process works. Like this book actually 6 months on has been great for revenue, but it's also been a learning experience about some stuff that didn't work so well. So when I write the next book, I'm implementing those, and down the line I've got another book in mind which I want to be a real big success, which I can use those past experiences from.
Yeah, and I agree. As I say, Russell Brunson's got a mailing list of hundreds of thousands, if not millions, of people, plus affiliates marketing it out there. So, it is a big difference. Whereas if you can use the power of Amazon and do your keyword research and things like that, then you can use their base of people to find your book rather than the push it out to your friends and family, which won't gain you the success that you want. What's your aim from this next book?
So this next book is, to give you the topic, it's about chess opening names, which is a pretty esoteric subject, like not really related to business at all. But the way that I got into it, well, first of all, I'm interested in the game. So there has to be an overlap between something you're interested in writing, but also something that people want to read. And what I was able to do through my keyword research on merchant words was find that there's actually a lot of searches for chess-related terms, but when you look at the books which are showing up, they're not being done all that well in terms of the covers look like they're from the 1970s. Mm-hmm. The copy is not there at all. They've been written by chess players who, bless their hearts, are often just too stuck in the world of chess to really think about what a book should look like or how to promote it. So my goal from this next book is a little different. Like the last one was about increasing authority, as you explained.
Yeah.
But from this one, I feel like I've just found myself a niche with low competition, which I plan to monetize through royalties of the book itself. I think as well the whole authority thing, having been through it, it is there, but cash in the bank is also pretty nice. So don't lose sight of that as you're building all this nebulous authority.
Exactly, and someone wrote a really good post on that the other day. It's like, I'm building my brand at the moment before I launch, whatever. And this was the person kind of taking the mickey out of it, going like, launch something and your brand will grow if you put out something good. Rather than, this wasn't relative to
right.
books. It was kind of stop building up your social proof and just get stuff out there, and your social proof will come off the back of it, and then you can up your prices, or then you can charge what you think you're worth, rather than the other way around, where a lot of people, and I'm sure you see it on social media, just flogging out a motivational quote here and there, and getting people to like and post and comment, but it was worded a bit better than that. So, but I like the chess topic, because I mean, there's a internet marketing friend of mine, and he's done really well. His topic is his saying, which isn't his saying, but a lot of North Americans, there's riches in the niches. which for us in the southern hemisphere doesn't really make any sense because we say niche. But I mean, that's a chess book is a pretty good shining example of that. In that, there's when there's low competition but a lot of search, or your area of difference is that you can do your research, create something that's appealing to the market, and then beat your competition, with a bit of pre-search, I guess, or research before you launch. Is a pretty powerful thing, and I mean, I see people do it everywhere. Like it's. I think what you've said, it's not even. I mean, it's brilliant for people looking to put out books, but it's also awesome to know from anything that you're doing in business. If you're looking to rank in SEO, if you're looking to create a Amazon fulfillment, drop shipping company, you're doing exactly the same things. You're finding somewhere that you can compete that isn't overly or isn't as crowded, or there's a secret weapon that you can employ.
There's a great story which just appeared on a forum which I follow about new businesses to start, and everyone was coming up with all these crazy funnels and all these crazy upsells and cross sells. And someone came up with the example of the guy who just shows up at the beach and sells jet ski rides, right? And the way that he found this business is he saw a beach and he asked people if they wanted to ride a jet ski if he opened a business, and a few of them said yes. So it's like, all right, I'll do it then. So I think this pre-search is it's huge in books and the whole business space, right? Like, are you actually offering something people want? And if the answer to that is yes, then it's just a case of going out and telling them about it. But getting like too nerdy about like finding something and then trying to convince people through all these tactics that they need it. It's just a much harder game to play, and that's, I guess, what a couple of years of hacking away at this has taught me.
Yeah, I can concur on that, and it's often if you have to do a lot of education to your market, it doesn't mean that your product isn't good. Like on the devil's advocate, it just means you have to educate people on a whole platform to take them through a journey versus something that the majority of them already want and are looking for. Then it's a lot easier to sell if they're already looking for it versus if you're pushing it in front of them and educating them and taking them on this journey. Both are effective, but I can tell you from experience as well, it's a hell of a lot harder than cranking up a physio business in a good location and people who got a sore back come in because they know that that's what they need.
You're solving an existing problem they already know they have.
Yeah.
And this jet ski guy, you can bet that he probably is not that like book smart in the way that some guys like us who've been to university would think of book smart, but he's probably killing it, right? He's just doing something simple and giving people what they want.
And action trumps bloody planning. To a degree. Obviously, the research prior helps, but you can, if you're going to sit there and be inactive for 6 months while Mr. Jet Ski pulls his jet ski up and starts taking rides for 6 months in advance and fixes the mistakes as he goes. And I mean, a lot of that's fear as well. A lot of us have fear and self-doubt and things, and so we decide that we have to shine everything until it's super shiny to get it out, which is good. Which is not good. Sorry. So any other gold nuggets for those aspiring writers out there?
Maybe I'll just speak a bit about what sort of life it is to be a writer.
Yeah.
I mean, what it's like. I think it's not the most profitable thing to be doing. I mean, if you're out there considering, like, if you don't have a business yet and you're considering what to do, like, writing appeals because I think you have pride in your work. You put something out there which is going to be lasting and hopefully around for many years to come. And it can lead to unexpected other opportunities because of what people see you do. Like, people get in touch with me actually about this upcoming chess book. I had one of the top chess course selling websites get in touch. and they basically have a lot of stuff going on their store, and they sell through their email list, but their Amazon presence isn't there. So they've asked me to take that on, and that's just something that wouldn't have come up if I hadn't written this book. So I think if you write a book, like it sort of opens up all these options which you might not have thought of before writing it.
Yeah.
And it's hard to know what those are until it's out there.
And I've seen you've got the skill set. Yeah, it's easier.
Right.
It's easier for them to hire you than them to try and figure out what they don't know. Like, they realize they haven't got the Amazon presence, but outside of that, they don't know what they don't know. So it's easier to bring somebody in who does than try and create it internally, which is a cool opportunity and then you've got proof that you can do it in one industry, and then who knows what the next door opens.
Yeah. But I would just encourage your listeners to take pride in their work, because I think that there is a problem out there with too many crap books being put out there, and like in terms of it being an authority tool, I think it's still true, but it's maybe becoming less true because people are starting to wise up to the fact that because anyone can put out a book and it can be easy to become a best-selling author. Like I think there's still some kind of elegance or creed to being a writer, which I want to see preserved. That even though it's possible to self-publish and possible to get into niches which were never before possible, which is awesome because you don't have to be big enough in terms of your topic of interest to get into a bookstore. Make sure you put out something that's good.
Yeah,
that would be my parting word.
Yeah, I mean, there's no point putting something out there that's not going to better people's lives. It's just a waste of your time. And like you're saying, with a lot of these people who say power out a book, but then it's just this self-fulfilling bloody look at me, like the first 7 of 8 chapters are just about them and about a little bit about people, and it's like, oh, I'm this great author, which to me kind of diminishes say you who's putting a lot of effort into that front end side of the creation, but also the content as well.
I think it's like any marketing channel. If you're going to do it well. Like you've settled on podcasting as a big part of your business.
Yep.
And you obviously put time and effort and research and resources into it. And I think the same is true. Like if you're going to start a podcast, then do it right. If you're going to start a blog, then make sure the content's there. And books are no different.
And I mean, that the hard thing about a book versus a podcast, not even the creation, not anything towards that, is podcasts you have to keep putting out episodes to stay relevant. So crap podcasts fall off the radar really quickly for people who don't put the effort in. So what I mean by that is 80% of podcasts never make it past 6 or 7 episodes. So there's 300,000-ish podcasts on iTunes, and 80% of those are inactive and haven't had an episode for forever. Whereas it'd be great if there was some culling system in the book world where once you put something out that was crap, they said, sorry, that's terrible, you haven't sold anything for the last 12 months, nobody likes it, and we're gonna cull it. But I can't see that happening in the foreseeable future. But like you say, have pride in what you do and do that well. Can we wrap up with a few last questions, kind of more about you and what you do? Because I mean, obviously being a digital nomad or a traveling entrepreneur, there's certain habits and things that I guess you have to maintain to have that consistency, to not be on holiday 24/7. Have you mastered that? Have you got any systems or hacks that have helped you achieve, I guess, more productivity or consistency when you were traveling around a lot?
Yeah, I mean, there's several tools that I use. I've got actually just a simple Excel file which I keep a bunch, or it's a Google Sheets file which I use to set goals for the week, track the habits that I'm looking at tracking, I actually use a very simple system to track habits, like even things that are not related to the business, like health and reading is another habit that I track. So I'm a very left-brained person, probably get that. So when I get to the end of the day and I see that, I've got my tick in the box for reading, I've gone for a run, I've eaten a good breakfast, then that makes me feel good.
Yeah.
And that sort of way of structuring things works for me. I know it would be way too I want to say anally retentive. I don't know if you can say that on a podcast,
No,
but
you definitely can. But
I definitely just did.
Yeah.
But that helps for sure.
But yeah, it's interesting because like you say that. I mean, I'm pretty much the opposite opposite to that. Not in the sense that I don't want to do it. It's that I don't do it as efficiently as I can. But I've started journaling daily, trying to set my goals, set out what every hour is going to try and look like. So I'm just using the whatever, I can't remember what it's called, My Success Journal or whatever, the one that's getting spruiked everywhere online. And when I consistent, it's interesting because I was saying to myself the other day, like when I don't do it, I go, why do I not do it? It makes my day better. It's like an interesting thing. Like, why did I not meditate today? Why did I not journal today? Why did I not plan out my day? Because I look in retrospect, and then I go to the journal. It says, what have you learned about today? And it's like, I am not as productive when I don't just block out these periods of time or set my health or fitness goals and things like that. And I've got a Fitbit and I get 13,000 steps, and that's just a day, and that's just a non-negotiable because I look at my watch and it says you haven't done that many. You need to go out and do stuff. So I can see left or right brained how it can be a good habit to start working towards.
Yeah, you are what you're spending your time on every day. So some way of tracking that, whether it's a journal or for me it's a spreadsheet, or whether you're just like being very centered by doing meditation and just naturally it happens for you. Like I tried meditation. It feels like I'm just sitting around doing nothing. But hey, for some people it works well, and so I can't knock it.
Yeah.
Those success journals, by the way, are the best business.
Yeah.
Because basically you put out a book which people buy for $10 or $20, which are mostly blank.
Yeah.
So if I look around those corners and see those opportunities too.
And the success journal I got, they have it on a reoccurring shipping basis because it's a 13-week journal. So you forget to cancel it because you've only used 6 weeks of it over those 13 weeks, and then all of a sudden you got another one, and I wrap it up and I go, happy birthday to to my girlfriend. So she's got one which obviously didn't buy. It was just shipped to me. Last couple of questions. With books, we've obviously been talking about a ton of them. Outside of your own, what one or two books would you recommend to other entrepreneurs out there looking to, or that have had a significant influence on you? They don't have to be business; they can be whatever.
There's a really nice book I'm reading again right now called Zen: The Art of Motorcycle Maintenance, and it's an old book, about 40 years old now, and it's a story of a guy on a holiday with his son, and he's telling this philosophical tale through the lens of repairing a motorcycle. So it's like an allegory, but it gets pretty deep into philosophy at some points. And like I think it's an interesting book because I guess it just forces you to examine your values really deeply and like point your compass in the way that's getting you closer to where you want to go. It's actually a really hard. I should have picked a different book because it's a really hard book to sum up in a short little sound bite like this. But if people out there are listening and are interested in like not just getting success monetarily, but also getting some kind of spiritual peace, it's a book that I'd highly recommend.
Yeah, cool. We'll link that in the show notes. PassiveIncomeYoung.com. Final question. Over the next 1 to 2 years, what do you see your path doing? Where do you see your your growth happening? What areas?
Yeah, well, it's definitely putting out more books, and this is again, it's more of it's a financial goal because the income is very nice.
Yep.
Because it's passive income in the truest sense of the word, where you can do the work anywhere and receive the money from anywhere.
Yep.
But also, it's a life goal. Like when I stop and think about who are the people that I really admire, like I actually found that guys like Mark Zuckerberg or Bill Gates or some of the really rich guys in the world didn't actually make it to that list, and all of the people on the list were authors. So I think that's a pretty interesting way of working out your own orientation in your life, actually, is look at who you admire, and if you could replicate someone else's success, whose would it be? And you might be interested in what kind of results you end up getting.
Had the exact same conversation the other day with a friend. Similar conversation, but so I want to add one extra last question. If you could choose 2 to 3 living entrepreneurs at the moment that you could sit down and have a beer with for an hour, who would they be?
Well, like I've just said, that the ones that I want to have a beer with are actually authors. So I hope you don't mind if I modify your question.
Yeah, that's fine.
Because I'd be way more interested to have a chat with Nassim Taleb, the anti-fragile and black swan guy. Robert Greene, who wrote Mastery and the 48 Laws of Power, and there was another one. There was another one that came to mind, but I think those two, just with each other, would be pretty fascinating, and I'd find it so intellectually stimulating. It would be fantastic.
Yeah, we had that, and we're just sitting there going, oh, we had the list with a friend in Facebook chat, and we're just going back and forth, and then we're like, no, scratch that person, add this one in, and so yeah, I think that might be
I thought about the other one was Michael Lewis, the guy that wrote Moneyball and Boomerang. He's the finance guy who makes it interesting, like these dry subjects, but he's just one of the foremost commentators on what's going on.
Yeah, cool. Well, we will, as I said, we'll link everything in the show notes. PassiveIncomeYoung.com. Been an absolute pleasure doing round 2 with you. A ton of value that I know our listeners will get out of this. If people want to get in touch, find out more about you, I know you gave it earlier in the show, but where can they go? What can they do?
Yep, we'll just give you the website again, which is www.assembleadvisory.com, or they can shoot me an email, which is nathan@assembleadvisory.com.
Awesome. Well, again, linked in the show notes. Appreciate it. Welcome to the Youngpreneurs family, and look forward to tracking the journey and reading some books.
Thanks, Victor. Been awesome. Cheers.
Thanks for listening to the Youngpreneurs podcast. This was proudly brought to you by the Podcast Institute, the #1 training resource to take your business from chasing leads to leads chasing you, and from an absolute amateur to a full-blown authority. If you're looking to take your business to the next level, then a podcast is the obvious answer. You can get national and global exposure in a very fast time, and it's just exactly what I've done with this podcast. So if you want to find out more, get a checklist on how you can get started for under $60, and to find out more through a small training video that I've prepared for you all, then please check out PassiveIncomeYoung.com/podcast training.